Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving into something pretty intense, actually. We're looking at that incredible bond between people and their dogs, specifically through stories where dogs stepped up in really dangerous situations. We've got some source material here, transcript excerpts from a YouTube video, 4 scary stories where dogs saved the day, over on the Mr. Nightmare channel. And our goal here isn't just to retell these scary stories. We want to really unpack them, look at how the dogs acted, why maybe, pinpoint those critical moments, and see what deeper insights we can pull about, animal instincts and loyalty.
Yeah, these accounts are fascinating. They go beyond just spooky campfire tales. They're really powerful examples of animal behavior, specifically the deep-seated protective drive dogs have. It manifests in such specific, life-saving ways sometimes. Let's get into it.
Okay, first up, we're heading to Vermont, a pretty secluded trail in Dorset. The person in this story is out for a run, it's after work, with their coonhound Murphy. And Murphy's usually really calm on walks, stays right nearby. But about 5 minutes in, something's off. Murphy just stops. Dead still on the trail. Looking back, ears twitching. Really didn't want to move forward. The owner's first thought, it's probably nothing. A deer, squirrel, maybe another person. But Murphy, locked on.
And that right there, that pause, that focused attention from Murphy, that's often the very first sign. Dogs pick up on things, scents, faint sounds, maybe even just a change in the air way before we humans do. That little hesitation, it's like the first alert from their internal security system. The dog saying, hang on, something's different here.
And yeah, what Murphy sensed was different. The owner looks back, sees a man down the trail, just looking right at them. The owner gives a little wave, trying to be friendly, eventually gets Murphy moving again, but the dog keeps glancing back. Then, maybe a minute later, Murphy stops again. Hard stop. Only this time, she's looking ahead and barking. And there's another guy, walking towards them slowly from the other direction. Owner waves again, tries to signal everything's cool, even says something like, "Oh, Murphy's friendly, you can pass." But the second man, no wave back, just keeps coming, slow, making eye contact. The owner said they really felt like something was up.
Right, this is a key shift. We went from a subtle signal about something behind to a full-on vocal warning about someone ahead. Our human tendency might be to, explain it away, just hikers, maybe they're shy, but the dog's behavior is clearly escalating. It's becoming more direct. And that lack of normal social response from the men, no wave. That slow, deliberate pace, it matches the dog's increasing alarm. They're reacting to intent, not just presence.
And then, the moment it all clicks into place, terrifyingly, just as the owner's dealing with the guy in front, Murphy suddenly whips around and starts barking behind them again. And the first man, he's now only about 5 feet away. They're closing in from both sides. The owner realizes, something bad was about to go down. And it did, instantly. Arms grab the owner from behind. The first man starts rushing, falling, charging at them. It's an attack. But Murphy, her reaction is just explosive. Her barks completely change. The description is rabid dog-like barks. And she doesn't just make noise, she acts.
Yes, this is that critical switch. From warning to active defense, the second the threat became physical, undeniably real, Murphy's protective instinct just surged. Biting isn't just a random snap in this case. Targeting the leg, trying to impede, holding on that shows a focused effort to neutralize the danger to her owner. It takes a huge amount of drive to overcome fear and physically engage like that.
That bite, it worked. It forced one attacker to let go, which gave the owner just enough room, just enough time to tackle the other guy. The owner actually had to pull Murphy off. The second she let go, they just sprinted, ran straight home. The man who got tackled didn't even fight back, probably figured they were, outmatched with Murphy there. What really strikes me here is how Murphy's response unfolded in layers. You had the subtle alert first, then the louder warnings as the threat got closer, and finally, full-on physical defense when the attack started. And this, from a dog described as usually calm, it feels like more than just training. It's like a primal switch flipped at exactly the right second, and it directly saved her owner.
Absolutely. Murphy acted like a highly sophisticated, instinct-driven security system that night. Identified the threat, escalated her response appropriately, and then decisively neutralized the immediate physical danger. You can really feel the owner's gratitude in the account, and understandably so.
Okay, moving from a trail to inside the home. Story number 2. This one's set in a loft bedroom. The person involved is just 14 years old. Their dog, a pit bull named Callie, sleeps in the room with them. And there's this big closet up high. You need a stool to get to it, mostly just for storage. So middle of the night, the teenager wakes up because Callie is growling. Not just any growl. She's standing right in the middle of the room, staring straight up at that closet. The kid is, totally scared, tries to call Callie over to the bed, maybe hoping to soothe her or feel safer. Callie stops growling for a second, looks over, but her attention snaps right back to that closet.
That's really significant, the focus. Callie wasn't just generally anxious, she was locked onto a very specific spot. Even when she acknowledged her owner, her underlying alert was clearly directed at that closet. It suggests she'd pinpointed the source of the disturbance.
Right, but, teenagers. Maybe wishful thinking. The owner figures, okay, she stopped growling for a second. Maybe it's just her imagination running wild. Tries to go back to sleep, but nope. Hours later, maybe, wakes up again. Callie's barking now, back in the middle of the room, barking up at the closet. The owner, probably groggy and annoyed, just tells her to shut up. Callie goes quiet. And then comes the proof, a sound anyone would recognize. A jar full of Lego bricks spilling over inside the closet.
And this is why a dog's persistence is so critical. Callie got dismissed the first time, but her instincts knew the danger was still there. Her second warning, louder this time, was immediately confirmed by a sound the human could finally hear. It really highlights why you shouldn't ignore a dog's continued focused warnings, even if you can't see or hear anything yourself initially.
Yeah, definitely. At this point, Callie just goes crazy, barking nonstop, trying to jump up the stepladder, even clawing at the wall. It's undeniable now something is seriously wrong. The commotion brings the father upstairs. The owner just tells him, "Dad, check the closet, there's someone in there." So the father climbs the stool, pulls the closet door open, and immediately gets shoved backwards off the stool by someone inside. Jeans, black hoodie, beanie. The intruder just bolts out of the room, heading downstairs to escape. But Callie's right on him, instantly gives chase. The owner hears them rushing down the stairs, and then a scream of pain.
That transition is lightning fast, from alert to agitation to pursuit and physical intervention. Callie followed both her protective drive and probably her prey drive, tracking the fleeing figure to stop the threat. And that scream confirms she made contact. She didn't just scare him off, she physically apprehended him.
Exactly. They get downstairs, and there's Callie, teeth sunk into the man's arm. There's blood on the carpet. Apparently she'd gotten his leg too. The father manages to get Callie off, tells the teenager to take her back upstairs while he calls 911, the intruder, just moaning in pain until the police and ambulance arrived. So this story, it's not just about the warning, it's about Callie's absolute conviction even when her owner doubted her. And that conviction, followed by that decisive action, directly led to catching the guy and, later, legal justice for the family. The father apparently kept saying how Callie saved the day. She didn't just alert, she held the line.
It's a really stark reminder that sometimes, the animal absolutely knows best. And their persistence is a signal we really, really shouldn't ignore, especially within our own homes.
Okay, our next account goes back a bit. It's a snowy night, December 1992. The narrator is just 10 years old at the time, and they're out walking their first dog, Calvin, a German Shepherd. Late night walk, snowy neighborhood. Definitely felt like a huge chore for a kid. So they're walking along, Calvin pulling a bit, near the woods at the edge of their neighborhood. Suddenly they hear footsteps crunching in the snow behind them. Calvin immediately turns, barks a couple of times, and a man appears. Bundled up, scarf over his face, only eyes visible. But he calls out in this, friendly voice, picks up some snow, makes a snowball, even throws it playfully towards the kid.
And there it is again. Calvin, the dog, is the first responder, reacting to someone approaching from behind before the kid fully registers it. The man's initial actions seem, maybe odd, but superficially non-threatening. Friendly voice, snowball.
Yeah.
But Calvin's immediate reaction, that initial bark, suggests he's sensing something more, something beneath the surface.
Yeah, it's strange. The man comes closer, pets Calvin, then puts his shoulder on the kid and says something like, "You shouldn't be alone out here on a night like this." The owner remembers feeling uncomfortable, saying they weren't alone, they had their dog, but mostly just wanted to get away, so they walked off without saying goodbye. But the man follows. The kid knows, even without looking back, because Calvin keeps glancing behind them, and they can just faintly hear the footsteps again. The initial thought is, okay, maybe he's just going the same way home. But then the sound changes. The footsteps behind them get faster, louder, more intense. Calvin spins around, barking much more seriously now, and the man grabs the kid, one arm around, the other hand clamped over their mouth.
That escalation is chillingly fast, from following to a sudden physical assault. And Calvin's barking, the increasing intensity, it wasn't random. It directly tracks the closing distance, the change in the man's speed and behavior. Calvin's instincts were screaming that the perceived threat was now immediate. It was active.
The owner thinks Calvin started biting right away. but the attacker had thick winter clothes on, so maybe he ignored it at first. But Calvin must have kept at it, because the man eventually lets the kid go. He turns his attention fully onto Calvin, just kicking at him, trying to fend him off. The man finally gives up, maybe the biting was too much, and he just runs off into the woods nearby. And this is the really awful part. Calvin is pulling so hard on the leash, chasing after the man, that the leash actually snaps off his collar, and Calvin just dashes into the dark woods after him, gone. The kid's left there, screaming Calvin's name, hearing the barks just fade away into the darkness, gets home, tells the parents what happened, that Calvin chased the man and didn't come back. Calvin never returned.
It's just heartbreaking, but also speaks volumes about Calvin's loyalty and, frankly, his sacrifice. He didn't just defend his owner by forcing the attacker to release them. He actively pursued the threat, drawing the danger away from the child. He knew the risk, chasing into the dark woods. His actions almost certainly saved that child's life by ending the attack and preventing the man from coming back, but it cost him everything. It's just an incredible, if tragic, example of that protective power.
Yeah, truly heroic, but such a sad outcome. Okay, our last story tonight, this one's on a farm, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Owner lives there with his wife and their baby son. They have Jesse, a Rottweiler. Jesse sleeps outside in a doghouse, usually on a leash attached to it, sort of as protection and intimidation. He's trained as a guard dog, but apparently very, very seldom barks at night. So when he does start barking, around 1:30 a.m. this time, the owner knows immediately, okay, something's up. So the owner goes outside, just robe and shoes. Jesse sees him, but goes right back to barking towards the cornfields bordering the property. Owner grabs a flashlight, gets Jesse's leash, decides he needs to go into the crops with the dog to see what's going on, clips on the leash, and Jesse just takes off, pulling him straight into the corn. It's dark, flashlight beam bouncing around, hard to see much. Jesse suddenly stops barking, but keeps pulling hard, then he stops completely. Sniffing the air, looking up. The owner isn't sure if Jesse heard something or saw something. They just stand there in the silence for a moment. Just hear it. Crops rustling, being brushed around somewhere nearby. Jesse's head is snapping left, right, left again, like he's hearing sounds coming from everywhere. He starts barking again, pulling hard.
Think about that environment. A dark cornfield at night. It's incredibly disorienting for us. Visibility is almost zero beyond the flashlight beam. Sounds get muffled or echo weirdly. But for a dog like Jesse, with heightened hearing and smell, it's a different world. He's not just hearing a sound, he's likely processing multiple sounds, trying to pinpoint movement in that confusing space. His renewed barking, pulling again, that signals the threat is confirmed, maybe even multiple threats are moving targets.
The owner, understandably scared but trying to project confidence, pulls Jesse back a bit and yells out a warning. Something like, "This is private property. Trespassers go to jail." Acknowledges later it felt like more bravery than he actually had. The whole situation feels, as he put it, surreal, and then it gets even weirder and scarier. They hear a woman scream, but it's described as a distressed, manic, deranged cot scream. Just bizarre and terrifying. Jesse instantly tries to pull towards the screaming, but the sound seems to move further away, and then it just stops. Jesse stops running, looks around again, still on high alert, and suddenly someone or something is zooming past us, rushing through the crops. So close the owner could actually see the corn stalks being pushed aside, maybe just 5 feet away. And right then, the owner makes a huge call. He unleashes Jesse, just lets him go, tells him, "Go catch them." Jesse vanishes into the corn instantly. The owner can just hear his barks getting further and further away. Now the owner's alone, shaking, totally terrified. As scared as a young child, he says, and then the most horrific thing happens. Right behind him, the corn parts. And something grabs his right shoulder, hard, squeezing to the point of it hurting.
This is the absolute peak of the terror. And Jesse's earlier action, being sent off, becomes really critical here, maybe in an unexpected way. By unleashing Jesse, sending him after that scream or the rushing sound, Jesse wasn't right there when this unseen attacker grabbed the owner from behind. However, it's very likely that Jesse's barking and pursuit, wherever it was happening, drew the attention of whoever was out there. It might have split them up, or at least diverted their focus just enough, creating that split second the owner needed when he was physically grabbed.
The owner just screams, doesn't look back, just runs. Runs blindly towards where he was. 90% sure led back to the house. He can still hear Jesse barking way off in the distance somewhere, but he's too scared to stop or look. Huge relief when he sees the roof of the house, makes it to the back lawn, runs straight inside, locks every door, every window, tells his wife just the basics, trying not to panic her, but lets her know someone, maybe more than one person, was definitely in the crops. They call the sheriff. About an hour later, a deputy shows up and finds Jesse just sitting calmly on the back deck. The deputy takes a report but says he's not going into the cornfield to search. After about a week of Jesse sleeping inside for safety, things apparently went back to normal. No more incidents like that.
It's a really unsettling story. And while Jesse didn't, bring back an intruder tied up, his presence and his actions were absolutely key. The initial alert, confirming the presence in the field, and then acting as that crucial diversion, drawing attention away from the owner at the exact moment of the physical attack, almost certainly prevented a much worse outcome. He allowed for that escape.
So when you look at all these stories together, the Vermont Trail, the bedroom closet, that snowy street back in '92, the Pennsylvania cornfield, they're all different settings, different outcomes, right? Escape, capture, even tragic loss. But the one constant, dogs. Dogs sensing danger, warning their humans, and then actively physically engaging when things got real.
Exactly. The common elements really jump out. That uncanny ability to detect threats we miss. The way their warnings often escalate from subtle cues to direct action. And that profound willingness to put themselves between their humans and danger, sometimes, as we saw with Calvin, at the ultimate cost.
It really does make you stop and think, doesn't it, about the animals in your own life, or maybe ones you know. These aren't just like scary YouTube stories. They feel like powerful reminders of that really ancient bond and the surprising, sometimes shocking capabilities these animals possess. Did listening to these change how you think about the animals around you at all? Did you ever see an animal seem to sense something before you did?
They definitely highlight the incredible protective potential wrapped up in that furry companionship we often take for granted.
It really does. And maybe it leaves us with a deeper question, Something beyond just instinct or how we train them. When a dog acts like Murphy or Callie or Calvin or Jesse did, sensing things we can't, facing down attackers, chasing danger away, how much of that is just like automatic programming? How much is shaped by living with us? And maybe, is there something even more profound going on, like a conscious choice maybe? Driven by a loyalty, a bond that we can't fully measure or understand? Could we ever really know the depth of it? Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into these incredible stories today. Remember, the source material we discussed came from the YouTube channel, Mr. Nightmare. Definitely check them out if you want the original tellings. And if you found this interesting or if it made you appreciate your own furry protectors a bit more, please do like this, share it with someone, and subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs, for more deep dives. Until next time.
Goodbye, everyone.